Paul. Here are the quarterly results.
Barry, this is incredible. These are the best results I've ever seen since I run Xerox.
These are the real quarterly results.
Barry, is this a joke?
A joke? The investors are pressing us so much. We are incapable of reaching half of what they expect. We need a change in our accounting papers.
Barry, what are you talking about?
So these are the results we obtained, and these are the results we could obtain.
But how?
Well, Paul, as you know, a reasonable part of our revenues are from leases. So if we recognize at the present the future lease payments, our revenues will shoot up. It's not about creating frictional money. It's about borrowing it from the future with its personal and corporate economic benefits.
Is it possible?
It is.
Is it legal?
Well, let's just say it's possible.
Is KPMG aware?
Not yet.
Okay. You go tell them and compensate them.
That's done.
Harry, be careful. I don't want my son studying Xerox Fraud at college.
Don't worry, Paul. He won't.
In this same, the Xerox Corporation violates the revenue recognition principle, which is the main objective in our case.
According to the GAAP, the revenue recognition principle states that revenue is recognized in income statement in the period when realized and earned.
Okay, so then what did Xerox do to violate the revenue recognition principle?
Well, Xerox sells copiers and other office equipment directly to its customers in exchange for cash, but more frequently enters in long-term agreements in which customers pay a monthly fee in exchange for equipment, service, supplies and financing.
In these long-term leases, Xerox recognizes immediate revenues for the lease payments, services and financing in the period in which the lease started, while the proper recognition would have been recognizing revenue in the periods in which they were earned. So technically, as Barry said before, they didn't create money that didn't exist. They just borrowed it from the future. With this accounting move, which wasn't neither legal nor disclosed, they reached their investors' expectations, but at the expense of making future expectations even more difficult to achieve and by increasing the company's vulnerability to future business downturns. With these manipulations, Xerox started being extremely profitable. So when investment analysts, aware of the manipulations or not, studied the quarterly reports, they recommended their clients to buy shares of Xerox, and consequently, its stock price began rising. But the glorious days never last forever, and for Xerox, this wasn't an exception. By 2001, information from inside the company was revealed, and the Security Exchange of Commission started an investigation that ended in a huge fall of the stock prices.
Identifying the contract follows a series of criteria required by the IFRS 15. These are:
Then having both parties approve the contract, as therefore commit to perform their respective obligations. In our case, Xerox will be the lessor, as the company will be the lessee.
Then both entities must recognize the parties' right.
And finally, Xerox and the company should identify the payment terms.
after identifying the contract, both parties must identify the obligations set in the contract.
Therefore, the entity would clearly identify the performance obligations, as well as the promise both parties make to deliver or transfer goods and services.
In our case, the Xerox obligations was to deliver printers to its customers.
Xerox would determine monthly loan payments for its customers and the transaction.
The next step is to allocate the transaction price to the performance obligations in the contract. In Xerox's case, the monthly payments should be allocated to the corresponding months of the lease.
The asset is considered to be transferred once a customer obtains control over it. The obligation is satisfied over time or at a point in time.
It is in this step of revenue recognition in which Xerox Corporation took advantage of the leasing revenues in order to commit fraud.
Leasing revenues must be registered under the overtime satisfaction period.
So, in conclusion, in the Xerox case, the revenue should have been recognized as the lease contract was performed and not when the lease contract started.